and thank you for joining us for this week's edition of It's Your City. I'm your host, Courtney Bloomer, here in the studios at the Brewery Arts Center with this week's guest, Carson City Mayor Bob Crowell. Thanks for being here, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, Courtney, I wouldn't have it any other way. Thanks for having me.
You have been a very busy man lately.
Very busy.
I am so excited to talk to you about some of the stuff that you've been up to. Let's start out with a recent trip that you got to go on with the city manager and also with Supervisor Bonkowski, a little international trip. Where'd you guys go?
Well, we went to Israel, and you know, it was a personal invitation to me as the mayor of Carson City from the Israeli consulate in Los Angeles, and you know, we took a look at it. It was for the 30th annual International Mayors Conference, and the topic was smart cities. And the topic was timely for what we're doing. So, you know, we asked that if the city manager and Supervisor Bonkowski could join in, and they said yes. We all kind of had to ink in on, not kind of, we did, ink in on our own to, you know, pay for it. But it was a phenomenal trip, phenomenal. And, you know, one of the highlights of the trip was meeting Netanyahu. Now, people have different views of Netanyahu, but and I think they do anyway. I don't know, but you know, there were 6 of us because each of us. So when we met Netanyahu, I'll tell you how important they thought this trip for the mayors was. We were supposed to meet with Netanyahu at 11 o'clock in the morning, and he got tied up because there was a lot of stuff going on in terms of you know, the conflict stuff happening there. So he couldn't make it at 11. So I said, "Oh, poop! You know, you know, I don't get to meet the prime minister." Well, he said, "Don't worry, because we think we're going to get a reschedule for 5 o'clock." So lo and behold, it gets rescheduled for 5 o'clock. We show up, and you know, there's only the mayors and the people who came with us in the briefing room there. And he asked, "Well, let's hear from where everybody is." And so when it came to Carson City, 6 people stood up and said, "I'm from Carson City." And the look on his face was phenomenal. It was fun. It was fun. But I raised the issue because, not just because there were 6 of us there who really made a point. You know, he was impressed that we were there. But you know, he met with us at 5 o'clock. He sounded like, you know, it was just like every other day, quite normal. Engaging, personable, and you know, and as we left, here comes Bak Ti-moon, the Secretary of the United Nations, in to talk about, you know, what's going on the Israeli-Palestinian issue. And it occurred to me, you know, I thought, boy, that is really an art, to be able to have all this stuff going on around you, all this tension and conflict. At least I would think it's tension and conflict, and be able to address these mayors as though it was, you know, nothing was going on. I mean, I said, you know, I got to take a page out of that guy's book, because that was impressive to do that. And it also showed Cortney that, you know, how much they appreciated having mayors over there, because, you know, it's unusual for a prime minister to make time like that. So,
absolutely.
Anyway, it was fun.
No, it sounds like a great trip. Recently, the appointed spokesperson for the Prime Minister made some disparaging comments about the leadership of the United States here. The Prime Minister himself is going to be in the United States, meeting with President Obama.
Right.
What kind of sense did you get as Americans about the relationship between Israel and the United States while you were there?
You know, I got the impression that you know, in some respects you get different views depending on where you are in Israel. From the north there's one, in the south there's another. In Tel Aviv and Jerusalem there's even another. You know, just anecdotally from the taxi drivers, they were concerned about you know, the nuclear agreement
with Iran.
With Iran, they were concerned about it, and you know, and surprisingly, they weren't too enamored with Netanyahu either, but they were concerned about the nuclear agreement. But I think, you know, from an American standpoint, I couldn't. You know, we just had a wonderful time. People were very friendly, you know, engaging, and I'm sure, Courtney, that one of the reasons why, you know, we were invited to. Now, I don't know why Carson City was, but I like to think, you know, it's because we're the capital of the state, you know, and all that. But I'm sure that, you know, what they wanted to show and to showcase is, you know, this is what Israel has to go through on a daily basis. And it was intriguing to see that, so I just kind of let it all sink in. And what was, you never really thought about this until you get over there on the ground. But Israel's only 67 years old. I mean, Israel as we know it today. And, so in a sense, it's an emerging country. And that's why, they focus very heavily on innovation, education, entrepreneurship, because that's how they build sustainability. And that's kind of not too much different than what we're doing here. So anyway.
Absolutely. So you were there for a conference for smart cities.
Yeah.
If you had one takeaway from the conference, something that you would like to bring back to Carson City and sort of put into effect here, what would that be?
I think, I guess another one would be an application to tell how much you're watering and what the right time to water is, and are you watering enough or not enough. And it seemed to me that would be a perfect application for our parks, where you can do it all by your phone.
Oh, yeah. We do live in an arid climate, and that's similar
Right.
to Israel as well.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. We talked to a lot of these entrepreneurs, that, we have the Adams Hub here, and what they have in Israel, the one we went to in Tel Aviv, not a whole lot different. I mean, they are a whole lot of smart people dealing, and kind of, they got lounge chairs and floppy chairs all over, and computers here, computers there. But, it's one of those ones that promotes engaging intellect, I guess is what you'd say. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've been to the top of the Bentley building down in Gardnerville. The old bank building they did, you go up to the third floor of that one, you'll see, because they're big on entrepreneurs down there too, you'll see that, they've got a lounge pit that you can sit in, food, and stuff, and then you can go out on the patio and look at the mountains. All that stuff is designed to give you a creative environment. And anyway, it was pretty interesting to see these young people doing it. And they were fascinated that we were over there too. I mean, come over to see them, so pretty good. And Susan and I, my wife and I, got to, the conflict dealt with the Temple Mount, which is the Dome of the Rock, and the current agreement that's in place says that Muslims can pray there, Israelis or Jews can visit, but they can't pray. And so, what the top line, what the Palestinians were saying, well, the Israelis are now going to change all that. They're going to take over Temple Mount and, cut us out of praying there and all that, which they weren't. I mean, they really weren't. But people, my wife and I, even though there's conflict going on, Susan and I said, we ought to go up there. So, it's right above the Wailing Wall. We took the time, went up there, and it was beautiful. There's nobody else up there because everybody's afraid. Not afraid, I don't know, but there wasn't anybody there. Which reminds me, one of the things that happens when you have these conflict things is that there aren't people there to go to the restaurants. I mean, they're hurting. It's like what happened in New York after 9/11. On these things, it's tough. And so their kind of message is, hey, Bob, bring back, this is safe over here. Well, I'm telling you, it is safe. Anyway, I'm talking too long, but it's fun to talk. So.
Well, it sounds like a fascinating trip. Meanwhile, stuff's going on here at home.
Stuff's going on.
Stuff's going on here at home. Last Thursday's Board of Supervisors meeting,
Yep.
A lot of things were discussed at length. Was a discussion amongst the supervisors and Sheriff Furlong about a grant for a community policing program to put officers in our schools. That passed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you'll hear from one. I voted for it, and I think and so did the other 4 members of the board voted for it. I think it's an extremely valuable program. It's time to do. We had a long discussion, primarily by Lori and Jim, Lori and Brad, about do we really know the costs associated with this? Because it's a big grant, but there's also big costs because it's in place for 4 years, and you got to agree to another year, and I get that. I mean, so we want to make sure that it's affordable. My sense was that once you drill down there and that you have some degree of faith that you can afford it. It's one of these ones where I think even if it takes stretching, it's important to do. It's important not only from the safety of our kids, but the perception in our community for parents, they can feel safe that their kids are going there. But even more deeper in a societal way, it's important for young people and even high school kids, to interact with police. Because so often, and you see it on the national news now, there's this tension between the police and whoever else, and it's not lost on me that, in Carson City, the police are compassionate, and they take the point of view that, we're here to help young people make good choices. We're here to keep you safe, but we're here to help you make good choices. And I think, not only does that pay dividends now in terms of safety, I think that pays dividends for society later on down the road, because hopefully, we can stem some of the violence that happens when people say, oh, it's just, it's a cop, yada, yada. And I'm terribly, I'm impressed with the sheriff, and I'm impressed with, our police department, because I think, they're on the right track. They're on the right track. And I know, you work with Safe Routes to School. And I think it's going to be a benefit to that as well, by telling people, that at least there'll be some police that are available around that can, if there's an issue, they can help on walking to school or riding your bike to school.
I think this program is going to provide a lot of good partnerships between the city and the school district and a number of different programs in the area.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's good all the way around. You always got to be careful about the numbers. There's the cost. There's no doubt about that. You got to be careful about the numbers, but from a standpoint of building a quality of life and a safe quality of life, I think it's absolutely the right thing to do.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we are running short of time, but I do want to touch on one final thing, a big announcement that you made last Friday. Some people might have seen this coming, but you announced that you will be seeking a third term as mayor of Carson City. What made you decide to run again?
I took a look at where we are in Carson City. We have a wonderful community. We're doing great things in this community. This community, it's poised to do great things, to take advantage of the diversification of our economy. We have great people, and I'd like to see, we've built an infrastructure, or we got more to build. But I'd like to see us now, implement what we have in terms of promoting community programs that will support that infrastructure and make it really work to create the vision that I think Carson City is looking for.
All right. Well, thank you for the direction that you've given the city so far. And of course, thank you for being here with us today to talk to us a little bit.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I may have talked too long about Israel, but it's a fun day. It was fun.
Well, we're glad.
A 24 hours trip, man, to get there and get back.
We're glad that you were able to go there, and we're sure that you, as well as the city manager and Supervisor Bonkowski, represented our city well. So thank you for that.
Okay.
And thank you to all of you for joining us for this week's edition of It's Your City. I'm Cortney Bloomer. We'll see you next week.